listening to Inside the Rings, your ultimate podcast destination for everything related to the Olympic movement. Here's your host, my dad, John Hawkins.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast Inside the Rings, where we take you inside the Olympic movement and bring stories of athletes, organizers to the table and to the forefront. I'm your host, John Hawkins. We've got a really special guest with us today, Kaysha Love, and we're going to get to know Kaysha really well on this podcast episode. So, Kaysha, welcome. We're so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. This is exciting. I honestly couldn't be more excited to share my story with you guys some more and just kind of the rest of the world. I think the Olympic space and the things that Utah's doing and bobsled and just Team USA as a whole are just super exciting. And so I love to share this story with you guys. So again, thanks for having me.
So you mentioned bobsled specifically. Why bobsled? Let's get into that first.
If you would have asked me this 5 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, I would have been you're crazy. What's bobsled? I don't even know what that is. My only, I guess, knowledge of bobsled up to this point was Cool Runnings, and so
yeah.
If you were to ask me then, I guess the answer is the Olympic dream. I just coming from being an athlete my whole life and just kind of having this Olympic spirit that just raised inside of me since the time I was little. I started off in the sport of gymnastics, and that was my passion. I still think to this day, gymnastics is my overall passion. I feel it really kind of showed me who I was as a person, and it really built my value systems and my drive to want to be a competitive athlete, and so I just remember watching the Olympics. Back then I didn't know it was the Olympics, but I remember watching specifically Alicia Sacramone in gymnastics. And I remember being Mom, this girl is so cool. She looks like me. She's doing great things on the TV. Everybody's celebrating. And then at the end of this, they're giving her this trophy. And it's just this really cool, fun, exciting atmosphere. And so after gymnastics, I did that for 12 years. And I just started running into injuries. And I just was starting to fall behind in school. So in gymnastics, they really want you to kind of get checked out of school. We're training anywhere from 4 to 6 hours a day. And when you're that young and you're in school, there's just not really time for you to be able to go to school full time and then to be able to go to the gym for that amount of time. So my mom was checking me out of school. And so I just kind of told her, I said, Mom, I feel I'm falling behind in school. I feel I have no friends. I'm not involved in my community. I keep getting hurt. This is a lot. And so she told me hey, let's try track. Well, Mom, I don't know if I'm fast. I don't know what running is. My whole life had been gymnastics. And so all right, we'll give it a try. And she basically just told me that it was going to be a good way to make friends in high school. She's no one gets cut from the track team. Just go out there, have fun. And my first race out, I missed the state record by 2/100 of a second. And I had no idea what just happened. And I just remember my mom and my coaches just being so excited about the fact that I could have some potential in track. And then from that point forward, I think I just also kind of jumped on that pipe dream of Olympic track. Okay, I'm breaking state records and people are really excited about me. They're kind of comparing me to some of the great track athletes that were representing our country in the games. And it was, again, kind of re-sparking that Olympic dream. And then I had decided to pursue track after that. I decided to let gymnastics go. I stuck with track. I went to UNLV on a full ride scholarship, and it was there where I kind of discovered bobsled. So, my coach. Yeah. So, and what's the irony of the whole thing is when I was getting recruited in high school, a lot of these universities, University of Utah and BYU and some of the other really big colleges out east were heavily recruiting me, and I loved the schools and the coaches, but I could not get over the fact that it was cold. I'm I cannot track in the cold thing. It's freezing. I had to tell Utah straight up, listen, I've been a diehard Ute fan my whole life. I would love to, but I'm not running track in the snow or the cold anymore. No way. There are places in the nation that it never gets cold. I need to be there. So So yeah, I ended up running track, and my senior year at UNLV, I was at nationals, and I missed the finals, and the bobsled coach and my coach kind of had a conversation and basically said, hey, I think Kaysha's in the wrong sport. Like, she's a good sprinter, could possibly even be a great one day, but I truthfully think that she is in the wrong sport and that she could be an Olympian in a year if she gave bobsled a try. And so he's telling me this, and I'm like, dude, you're crazy. I don't even know what your sport is. And then you're talking about the Olympics. Like, this is like the top of, like it's the Olympics. Like, this is the top of the best in the world, like the most elite. Like, and I've always grew up thinking that, like, even summer, but especially winter sports, like, these athletes are 5, 4, like, learning to skate on ice and learning to do their like triple axels when they're like 10, And so I'm like, you want me to jump in a bobsled that's going 80 miles an hour in my old age of 21? Like, I just don't know if that's going to be for me, And so I said, you know what? All right, I'll give it a shot. And so I went out to Lake Placid. I tried their rookie camp, and I absolutely loved it. Like, I just fell in love with the environment, the competitive atmosphere. And then I got to learn more and more about just bobsled and the culture, and like specifically like the women's culture in USA bobsled. And I loved it.
Yeah.
Like, I could not shake how incredible the legacy that those women were a part of, and the fact that like I could possibly be a part of that was just like, it still gives me like chills to this day, like knowing that like I'm a part of a team that really held down and created like history and built like a legacy on top of a legacy that I get to be a part of. So that's really where the bobsled stuff started from.
So you're a member of the women's bobsled team.
Yeah.
And by maybe happy accident, right?
Yeah, I would say that. I definitely would say that, because again, I don't think I ever would have pictured myself as like a bobsledder, like people don't grow up like wanting to be a bobsled athlete. And to me, I just feel like bobsled, now that I've been involved in it and I get to see like other people's journeys and kind of how other people found their way and how I found mine, is that like I think this sport is so much about just like finding your purpose and like giving you like another chance at like greatness and achieving your goals, and just like being able to be an inspiration for the next people, And so everybody in track, at least for the like Team USA, I know it's different for other countries, but for the US, like all of our athletes come from different sports. We have track and basketball and volleyball and baseball, and it's just this like new beginnings kind of sport. And I think that in itself is like really inspiring.
Yeah, that's a really cool part of your story. We've seen with other athletes like the Guatemalan shooter in the Paris Olympics, who really started in gymnastics and then was injured, transitioned to another sport. You grew up in Utah, and then, by being in Utah, you were exposed to winter sports, but you didn't love the cold, as you mentioned. So did you ever even give winter sports a consideration, or was it always track or gymnastics?
Yeah, I think I really wanted to. Like, I had family that were involved in like snowboarding and skiing and stuff like that. But my gymnastics coach was just really, really strict in the sense of like making sure that we didn't get hurt, and those like extra fun activities, especially like the snowboarding and the skiing and that kind of stuff, was like off limits in our gymnastics club of just trying to stay healthy. So I'd always like watch from afar and kind of like idolize these people that were having so much fun on the mountain and stuff. And even in like high school, like I had friends that had like season passes to like Brighton, and they would just like have a blast up there, and I would have loved to, but with just gymnastics and track, like I was always so scared I was gonna get hurt, so I just kind of stuck to my sports.
Well, how hard was it to give up gymnastics?
I think that was definitely like a challenge and a triumph that I kind of had to find myself like overcoming a little bit, for the longest. Like I did that sport for 12 years, and those 4 walls of that gymnastics gym was my whole world. And during the time too, like my parents were kind of going through a divorce, and so I really found like structure and like guidance and just, I guess, comfort in those 4 walls of those gymnastics gyms and learning new skills and things like that. So when I think about like giving up gymnastics and moving into track, and even track to bobsled, like that definitely is a challenge and a triumph that I kind of clumped together a little bit. It's really hard to like leave something or in a passion, especially when you didn't feel like you reached your full potential there, and so for me, I think, especially in track, like gymnastics, I outgrew it. I knew there wasn't really going to be like a lot more there for me. And so it was a lot easier to kind of like let that sport go. But in the sense of like track, like I definitely felt like I dealt with a lot of injuries, a lot of like mental cases. Like there was a lot of things that I feel like I could have done differently about my collegiate career that could have definitely made a difference of how I could have impacted my like track career. And so to kind of let go of track without feeling like I reached my full potential was a little challenging. But then I started recognizing like, you know, I really rely heavily on God and my relationship with him, and just kind of realizing that like all those things were happening for a reason. And track and bobsled are so similar that it's this like ongoing joke that, you know, like it's nearly the exact same training. It's the exact same type of technique. It correlates really, really well. And so I started realizing probably into my second year of bobsled that like I didn't not reach my full potential in track. It was more or less like track was prepping me for bobsled. Like now that I'm full-time bobsled athlete, like I recognize that like this is my purpose. Like bobsled is like becoming my passion, my purpose. It's the thing that I absolutely like love, you know? And so it's definitely been more of like a gift versus kind of thinking about what I could have done in track and just recognizing it as I was training for bobsled all those years that I was doing track. It was just prepping me to be able to take on the biggest stages in the world. When I was competing in conference or nationals on the NCAA level, it was just prepping me to be able to, in the following year, like make my first national team and go to world championships and things like that. So
that's an amazing path and an awesome story. Take us a little deeper into how you became involved in bobsled. You mentioned you tried out when you were at UNLV. What was that process like? You were invited to try out in Lake Placid. How many people were there, you know, invited to try out with you? How did they even scout you out?
Yeah. For sure. So I'll start with kind of how they find athletes. So we're kind of in the process of it right now. So in the off season of bobsled, the coaches are basically just on kind of like a recruitment hunt, like where they're searching for athletes that are strong, fast, powerful, that actually have like size on them as well. You know, most sprinters to be like arguably successful, they need to be kind of small and lean, you know, like you're moving that mass down the track. So the more mass you weigh, the more difficult it is to move yourself down a track. It's not impossible, but it's hard, right? So there are kind of this rare breed that I think bobsled is like looking for. Like we're looking for the athletes that on the male side are like 225, can run like a 10-5, can squat like 500 pounds. Like those are just kind of rare combinations, you know? And like on the women's side, like we're looking for girls that are like 170, can run like 11.4, 11.5 on the slow end, who can be like squatting 400 pounds. That could, like, these are just kind of like really rare combinations, you know? I just remember in track and field, like my speed was great, right? But my numbers in the weight room did not like correlate with what I was like putting on the track, you know? And so, and same for like weightlifters, like those people are incredibly strong and they can put up some crazy numbers, but they're not necessarily the fastest people on the track, you know? And so bobsled kind of has to have this like perfect combination of like all of those things. And so these coaches, they'll go to different functions, whether it's a track meet, a soccer tournament, or just nationals amongst like NCAA sports, and they will kind of just eyeball athletes that they feel like could have the potential to be successful in bobsled. And so I kind of just got on their radar. I'm not entirely sure how I got on their radar, but I know they were at the track meet, and I guess I passed the eye test to them. And so I got that invite, ended up going to Placid, and it was super intimidating, you know, like they didn't really tell me a whole lot about like what I was going to be kind of getting myself into. It was really just kind of like a crash course on like bobsled and just kind of testing your like physical abilities, to be able to like push a sled, you know? And so get out to Lake Placid. There are 5 girls and like 10 guys, and we all come from the highest level of our previous sport. There was basketball, football, track, CrossFit, and like all of us have kind of the same story of like we came from the highest level and now we're here to kind of try this out. So it was a week-long camp. They kind of just gave us the basics of what bobsled entailed, like how to push a sled, and that was kind of like the gist of it, you know? And then at the end of the camp, we did like a rookie competition, and everyone got to test, push, and if your numbers were in the ballpark of national team, you would get an invitation back to like the next camp that involved the national team members and stuff. And so after that rookie camp, I ended up winning that rookie camp and putting up some like respectable numbers. And I got a call like a week later that was like, hey, we're going to invite you to something called a performance camp. We think you'd be great for it. And at this time, so this was in October of 2020, I went out there again, loved it. I actually put up some more respectable numbers. And then I still had an outdoor season with UNLV. And so I told them, I was like, I love it. I want to continue, but I still have like obligation with UNLV at this time. And they were fantastic. Like they really kind of worked with me in the whole trying out for bobsled and coming back to run track for them. And so they're like, all right, sounds good. I went back to UNLV. I ran my outdoor season. I had a fantastic time with them. Like we won conference. It was a really great season to like end on. And then it was July of 2021, and this is now the Olympic season. And so I kind of give the head coach a call. I was like, hey coach, I came off the track. I really loved bobsled when I tried it a couple months ago. Like, what are the next steps? And he kind of actually told me that there wasn't any opportunities for this upcoming season because basically push championships that they named their national team on was going to be happening in like 3 weeks time from the time I called him.
Oh, yeah.
And he just said, I'm going to be honest with you. Like the people on this team are very, very competitive. We have returning Olympians, returning world champions. Like every single girl on this roster has stats and accolades that you just don't have. And so I just think it would kind of be a waste of your time to kind of come out and try out for the team this year. Like, it's not going to happen. And so I just told him, I said, okay, like, I really respect that. Like, thank you. But like at the end of the day, like I wanted to be involved in the sport. And so I just told him, I said, well, I want to be surrounded by greatness. Like I want to be involved in this sport. And if I don't make it, I don't make it, but at the end of the day, like where you want to go, you need to surround yourself with those like-minded people, like you need to see what your competition is and see the girls so they can inspire you and motivate you and show you the ropes. Right. And so about a week later, now we're 2 weeks out from push champs, and I call him again and he's again, like, I don't think so, Kaysha, sorry. Like you did a rookie camp a couple months ago, but that's just not really enough experience to kind of let you do these national push championships. And so I just asked him like one more time. I said, coach, please, like if I don't make the team, I don't make the team. Like I would just love to be out there and to just see like what your program and things are about. And it's like, okay, we'll give you a chance. Like, come on out. It's going to be in 2 weeks. So if you can get yourself here, we'll let you compete in it. And so I got myself to Placid and ended up like winning push championships okay, let me take that back. I won the sprint test and then the single competition for the single pushes. I didn't compete in because I kind of tweaked my hamstring a little bit. And then for the combination pushes, there were 4 of us that tied for like first, I guess. And so there wasn't like a distinctive USA 1, 2, 3, 4. And so head coach is like, okay, you did it. You've made the national team. We're really excited for you.
That's awesome.
So, and then next steps were the World Cup national team was going to go on World Cup. They were going to head to Europe in like a month's time. And the other half of the non-funded World Cup team was going to stay in America and do like the North American Cup tour, which is a little bit of a lower circuit. And head coach calls me and is like, hey, listen, you made the team. You don't have experience. I think you should stay in America. Stay in America, get some races. And I think we call that a great season. And I just told him again, it's like respectfully, like I need to be surrounded by your team. Your team, like you said, are the best athletes in the world. Like they are here doing incredible things. And even if I don't make a team this year, even if I don't race, like I want to learn the ropes from these women. And so he said, okay, we'll take you out. I don't think you're going to get a race, but if you do, like, I hope you capitalize off of it. And so the second week of the World Cup season, the coach comes to me and he's like, hey, we're going to give you a chance. We're going to let you race. And so I got so excited. Like, I just remember calling my mom and being like, oh my gosh, like it's here, it's happening. I came out here expecting not to race at all. And he's like, no, let's do it. So I raced and I ended up like putting, what did we do? We put the fastest start time together. And I think we missed the start record by like 0.04 of a second. And that race like single-handedly like changed my like entire trajectory of my career and like making the teams. And that race just opened up so many opportunities. And so so that honestly, I really think that first race is what led me to making my first Olympic team 3 months later.
3 months. Yeah. So Kaysha, I did some research.
Wow.
There were about 18 months between your first tryout and making the Olympic team. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yep. I did that first bobsled run in October of 2020, and then in that rookie camp. And then I went back to UNLV and came back in July and made my first team in October, and then first race November and Olympics in February. It was so fun. Like, when I think about it, I still can't even really wrap my brain around how all of that went down, but that was so fun.
So you talk about push competitions. Those just ended. I can't remember the exact language, but give us a little bit more detail. What is a push competition, and what was the trial like? As you were training, were there any weightlifting aspects or sprinting aspects? Did you push a fake bobsled? So how did you actually go down the track, through this whole experience? Take us through that experience a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was a combination of all of that. So for me, I had to do something called a combine, which was like a 8-event test. We had to do a 15-meter sprint, a 30-meter sprint, a power clean test, a squat test, a shot put toss forward and backwards, and a broad jump. And so this was just to test your athletic abilities. And we have this like graded scale, and whatever numbers you put up, you got a certain score. And athletes that didn't reach at least 85% couldn't make national team. And so like it was super important to like get those numbers. And for me, coming from track, like weights were just not my like cup of tea. I was not comfortable in like the weight room. And so that was kind of a really big stressor in my tryout portion, is just, will I pass the like raw athletic ability test in that aspect? Yeah. And then the second portion is we have this thing called a push track. And so it's basically like a carded bobsled on wheels. So it allows you to like practice the start and to be able to really hone in on that skill set without actually having to go down a track. So when you go down a real bobsled track, like you're pulling anywhere from like 3 to 6 G's depending on the track, and it can be really hard on your body. So they invented these push tracks so you can practice your starts without having to put so much toll on your body. So that's where we test the athletes. Like that's where they put new athletes, national team athletes, they get data on all of us to see like who can push the fastest, because ultimately that push is arguably like one of the most important parts of bobsled. That's where all your speed is generated. Your speed, your velocity, it doesn't speed up where you can't gain more of it like throughout the track. There's nothing we can do to like gain more speed. It's whatever you created at the top of the mountain is just going to compound down the track, and so you do that combine test, and then you're on this dry land push track. And again, it's probably about 60 meters long, and it kind of has a baby hill in it. And you're literally just like practicing the start. It's this really watered down, carded bobsled on wheels. And yeah, you're practicing. And so we actually in Lake Placid just created an ice house. So it's the exact same version, but now it's a little bit more like, I guess, high tech in the sense that it's actually ice. So now we can bring our bobsleds, we can bring the skeletons on there. Like we can kind of elevate the training in that aspect, seeing how we can bring real bobsleds onto that ice push facility. So yeah. And then once you push a certain number at your rookie camp, like I mentioned, you get invited to what we call like performance camps for the national teams. So the national team members are required to go to these camps. And if you can kind of keep up, or if you can show potential and if you can work well within that group, that you will also get opportunities to then go to like the national push championships. And my issue and my story is that I didn't do one of those performance camps. Like I went straight from rookie camp begging to get into like national selection push championships. And so
because the performance camp was during your outdoor season at UNLV, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because those performance camps happen in the summer prior to the upcoming season. So I couldn't do it, but it was definitely like breaking kind of the progression. Like you do the combine, you do the rookie camp, then a performance camp, and then you can get invited to national push championships.
So let's go back for a second to your high school career. In you were a sprinter, right? At Harriman High School.
Yes, go Mustangs.
Go Mustangs! Yeah. What events did you run?
I kind of did a little bit of everything in high school. I did primarily the 100, 200, and then the
Okay.
4x1. But I loved high jump. High jump was probably my favorite event. That was so much fun. I think it just reminded me
Yeah.
of gymnastics, you know, like you kind of got to do a
Yeah.
half backflip over a bar. Like it was really fun. Yeah. So, and then in college, that's what I ended up doing as well. I did the 100, 200, and I actually ended up doing the 4x1 and 4x4 in college.
Oh, 4x4. You did the, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the irony,
Yeah.
I mean, I really enjoyed the 4x4. I thought that that was a really fun event. I actually liked it better than I liked the 200. The 200 was really hard
Interesting.
for me.
Yeah, because I remember I ran the 400 one time in high school,
Yeah.
and I about died because
Yep.
no one told me how to run it until after I'd run it. And,
Great.
you know, so you see these people, and I actually ran track with the state champion in the 400. And
Wow.
so I saw him running it, and I was like, okay, that's how you run it. And he was
Uh-huh.
fast, but he didn't ever tell me the mechanics of it, right? So you actually kind of coast
Right.
on the back stretch, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't know that, so I'm like beating the field, and I'm like, I'm gonna win this thing. I get
Right.
to 250 and I can't move,
Right.
and
Monkey jumping
everybody
back.
passes. Yeah, and everybody passed me up. But with the 200, you're sprinting the whole time,
The
right?
whole time. Yeah.
Okay, so that, yeah, I can see
See,
that.
I really liked the coast part. Like me and the coast part
You're
were
best
really
friends.
good in 400, you know? And the
Yeah,
100 was just short enough and just long enough where you can go all the way and not feel like you're going to die. But that
yeah,
200 was so hard for me.
yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, you were named the Utah 2016 Gatorade Track and Field Athlete of the Year, right?
Oh, man.
For Harriman High,
Yes.
and
Man, you're
that's
bringing back
huge.
so many memories. That's
Yeah,
so
good.
fun. Man, high school was such a good time. That was really fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
I still remember that. I could not believe that was even like a thing. Like I remember telling my mom like freshman year, like, hey, this is really cool. Like in gymnastics, you don't really get these like community involvement, like awards or community involvement like at all, you know? Like the things that you do are
Hmm.
like big within the gymnastics community, but in the sense of like what you're doing doesn't really have a major impact on like your overall community, you know? Like I remember going to like family functions and stuff, and my cousin would be doing football, and that's
Hmm.
something that like everybody can relate to. And there's all these like
Yeah.
fun like little league awards and like banquets and like all these things that he was constantly like inviting all of us to. And then it would kind of come to like gymnastics, and it's like, well, I just train 30 hours a week and I go to state championships and stuff like that. So when I got into high school, like I remember telling my mom, like, wow, this is so cool. Like the community is actually like acknowledging and like really supporting like these athletes that are doing like incredible things in like softball and track and all these different sports. And so I never really kind of imagined that I would be one of those athletes that was on one of those stages of being Utah's Gatorade Player of the Year. That was so surprising, but it
That's
definitely was
awesome.
something that I held really close to my heart during the time. That was so fun.
So, do you still hold any state records
I
for
surely hope
your?
not. I truthfully feel like records are just meant to be broken, you know? Like records are just there to show
Yeah.
you that like we're evolving and we're being inspired and motivated, you know? And if records aren't breaking, then the generation before you like didn't do their job in the sense of like motivating and encouraging the next generations to be better, you know? And so I surely hope not, but I'm not entirely sure.
You know, I actually asked Kat that question one time, and she said the same thing.
Yeah.
And from someone that's never held a record, except maybe the slowest last 150 of a
Oh,
400, um, you know, I've always felt like I don't want anybody to break my record, but your answer sheds a new light on it, right? If we're not breaking records, then we're actually not doing our job for the next generation,
yeah,
right?
you know,
So
totally. So, and I
interesting.
really think back about like the people who inspired me, like especially in like track and in bobsled and in gymnastics too. Like those people were like so inspiring, and I just wanted nothing more than to do what they were able to do, you know. And I just think that my mom always just kind of taught us that, you know, when you go somewhere, you got to leave it better, and to be able to like hold records and to continue to hold them, it's a great like achievement, and it sounds really cool, and it's great to be like, oh, I hold this 30-year-old record, but at the end of the day, like, to me, all that shows is that you didn't teach anybody, you didn't inspire anybody, you didn't give back, you know. And there's nothing wrong with not doing that at the end of the day, but I also just feel like I am everything I am because of the generation that came before me, and I just think it would be so cool to have that be like known of like, hey, I broke Kaysha's record, like Kaysha had a conversation with me, or Kaysha whatever, you know. I think that would mean more than having my record stand. So I don't know. I know for sure that
it's a great perspective.
Yeah. So, and especially too in like the Utah, so the record that I broke, like that record was standing for like 33 years. And it was just really kind of eye opening for me back then of like, wow, like it's taken us 33 years to be able to like reach the point that we were like back then, you know? And so I just remember thinking like, I don't want to like look back at like Harriman even. Like I loved Harriman and my coaches and my teammates so much, and be like, wow, we really dropped off. Like we came in, we dominated as a school, and then somewhere around like 2 years later, we just kind of fell off. Like, no, like I want to be a part of like the legacy and like the inspiration, you know? So I know that there's a girl that, Jaslyn Garter, I think she runs at BYU now. I know she broke one of my records. I don't know which one, but I know she did. And that was really exciting. Like I was really happy to hear about that. But yeah.
So, Kaysha, inspiring the next generation is something you've done with bobsledding also. You're pretty active on social media, helping to grow the sport, which is important, right? Why is that such an important aspect of your bobsledding career?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's huge in the sense that, especially winter sports as a whole, we just don't really have a lot of diversity, you know? Like, there's just not a lot of athletes that are black or like anything. Like, it's primarily like a white dominant, like, not even sport, but just like Olympic culture for like winter sports. And I think that like just being a black woman in bobsled has been really important for representation and just kind of carrying, again, like legacy and just overall like chasing your dreams and your visions and things. And so for me, I really loved it. Like if it can mean just educating people more of how bobsled works or how like the Olympic space works, and like I want to be that for people, because people really don't know a whole lot about bobsled, and it's one of the world's most exciting sports. Like every time the Olympics rolls around, like it's one of the most watched sports, and everybody knows it Olympic year, right? But like outside of Olympic year, like no one knows that the World Championships or the World Cup are on TV, and you can stream it on YouTube, and you can watch it on like NBC and things like that, you know? And so I think just bringing more like representation and just awareness to our sport too, it could be massive. And if that means that it takes getting on social media and posting about what we're doing on a daily basis, then like so be it. Like I'm not really one to love social media. I think it's really challenging. I feel like I'm somewhere in between this like millennial and like Gen Z with the social media. Like I love it, but I'm also like, it is the hardest thing for me. But no, but again though, if I'm like, okay, I have to suck it up because we want to, again, inspire the next generations and educate people on bobsled and give people like another outlet, you know. Like there's been a couple girls that I kind of run into, like for example, after the Beijing Olympics in 22, I was really considering just kind of being done with like bobsled and just kind of starting like life. And I ended up getting like a call from an athlete that I ran track with at UNLV, and she basically just said that like her and her family and all of her close friends kind of had like a watch party, and they just could not believe like the impact that like I had on like them, you know, like someone that they knew personally had been in the Olympics, in the Winter Olympics for that matter. Like we all come from like this drive of like Summer Olympics, you know, and to kind of bring more representation to the Winter Olympics was not something that I really expected, you know. I kind of clumped the two of them together, and they're different, you know. It's really interesting to kind of see the different perspective and I guess ideas that a lot of the people that I like associated with saw the difference between like winter and summer Olympics. You know, they're like, you flip on the Summer Olympics, you're seeing all the Black athletes in track and in gymnastics and in soccer, and you know, but you flip on Winter Olympics and it's a lot more rare to see Black people in the Winter Games. And so I just kind of realized that, you know, at the end of the day, like sometimes it's not always about like you and your results. It's about like the impact that you can leave on like the people that you love most. And so it's like, you know, this would be an avenue to be able to show the world that like we can move forward in carrying legacies as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've been on the national team since 2020, let's say 2020,
okay,
2021.
Yeah.
There's different spots, right, that you in a bobsled. Where do you start out typically in a sled?
Yeah, so we start everybody off as a brakeman. So in the brakeman, that is, in my God honest opinion, like the most important position on the sled. The brakemen kind of have a not so luxury position. So it's, I think, the easiest, hardest position ever, right? So all you're doing is like pushing this bobsled, and it's like, okay, I can push a bobsled. Like we all push carts every day, and when you go to the grocery store or something, right? But this bobsled is so technically sound, like the mechanics and the technical cues and just the skill set to be able to like efficiently like accelerate this sled that weighs 330 pounds is kind of just this crazy idea. And so you bring him in, you learn how to push the sled, and I think it really takes brakemen anywhere from like 2 to 3 years to really perfect like the push technique. There's so many different techniques, there's different philosophies, and it's super challenging because it gets frustrating. Like it's easy. All you're doing is like you're pushing the sled, but to be able to push it like a tenth faster, or to push it, I guess, executing it in the way that's going to effectively help the sled at the bottom is so incredibly challenging. But the brakemen also have, this is where I think their like most important role comes in. So not only are they like the speed of the sled, but they're also like the heart and the soul. So we kind of call it sled dogs. In bobsled, we have this term, it's called the sled dog, and that's basically your nickname for all brakemen. So it's your brakeman's job to basically watch the sled. So they have to make sure the sled is prepped, ready, all the settings are correct, the runners are polished and neat. And in our sport, technology and sled technology is super, super important. And so every country has like different sleds, you know, and so we're constantly trying to like evolve and like stay ahead of the next country. And so in doing so, like lots of countries will like peep or try to like look into your sleds, try to figure out like what's in your sled that's making your sled go faster than like the next countries, right? And so it's super important to like cover your sled at all time, or to have somebody watching it, because people will totally like check out your equipment. So as a sled dog, it's your job to make sure like no one looks at our sled. So you're watching our sled, you're making sure the runners are on tight, you're making sure they're polished, ready to go. And then while the pilot is going on a track walk. So it's the pilot's job to like get us down safe, but it's the brakeman's job to make sure that like all of our equipment are like just, I guess, everything that gets us from the top of this track to the bottom of the track, with the exception of like driving it down, is like efficient, ready to go. And sometimes like that task can be like super daunting and it's really scary, but I think that's what makes the difference between like world-class brakemen and like rookies that are coming in. Like these rookies can push fast, but when it comes time for a competition, like are they doing the little things that make them like great brakemen? Like are they studying the track? Do they know when they need to pull the brake, or do they need to get a cue from their pilot? You know, are they making sure that the runners are polished? Are they watching the sled? Are they staying warm so they're able to give us a really efficient push? Like it's, yeah. But that brakeman position also, it gives you kind of a, I guess, great passenger seat of like what happens in the bobsled space. So like how do the politics run of like our sport? Like where do you need to be? Who do you need to have these conversations with? Like there are things that happen like on the World Cup circuit that you may not necessarily know you need to be like aware of, you know? And so it kind of gives you those ideas. And then it also gives you ideas of like, okay, our sled needs to be at point A, our sled needs to be at point B. So something other people don't know about bobsled athletes is that we are everything. We are the athletes, we are the movers, we're the mechanics, we do it all from like top to bottom. Like there's other sports like skiing, for instance. Like they have people that like wax their sleds, they have trainers. Like we're the ones that do all of it. So to have a really efficient, on top of it, brakeman who knows, hey, I need to get the sled truck. I have to pull this like sprinter sled truck around to be able to pick up our sled, drop it off here, all while the pilot is on a track walk, like learning the track. And so it can become like a really daunting, kind of crazy job. But then the pilot position, so after you've done at least a season as a brakeman, most people decide to stay a brakeman. They like the role, they like the flexibility, they like just overall being like the speed and power and like giving to the team as a brakeman. There are a select few that are kind of selected by the coaches that will go to like a driving school. So after the 22 games, they asked me to do driving school, and driving is very, very bizarre. It's one of the very first things that, so let me back up. Driving is so confusing because in like any other sport or like anything else, right, you're teaching someone a skill set, and it's hard teaching someone a skill set that you've like acquired over the years, right? But it's not impossible. Like you find someone who's a professional at it or has done it for a while, and they can teach you like the ropes of how to do something, right? Bobsled is trying to teach a feeling. So the whole time you're down there, like the coaches are honestly coaching you on like feeling, and so it's really challenging. You know, what John may feel is completely different than what I feel, you know? So when the coaches are telling you like, hey, you're going to feel like 4Gs in here, like I might respond different to 4Gs than like the next person. Or when they're telling me like, hey, when you feel the sled rise, like some athletes don't feel like the sled changing, I guess like heights or pressure or direction in a curve, you know, like that just kind of comes with like the body awareness. And so I remember my first track walk being like, I have no idea what these people are saying. Like we're on our track walk and my coach is basically telling me that I need to cut the pressure in here. I need to like hold on to the steer a little bit longer here. Feel for the sled to rise. Don't let it rise too much. Catch it. I'm like, what does that mean? I'm so confused. Like, yeah. Okay. And so, and then you're asking like follow-up questions, right? Like, okay, well, what does that mean? Like cut the pressure. Like, how do you know when to cut? What is a cut? Like, what's a pressure in a curve, right? Like, I'm like, I have absolutely like no physics background whatsoever. I'm like, you're gonna have to dumb this down for me. I have no idea. And yeah, and then it's like, you know what? You just have to go down. You go down one time and you'll figure it out. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. We're going like 75 miles an hour, and you're talking about just wing it. Like, I don't know about that. And so the other really challenging part is that there's not a big progression in bobsled, right? So like in gymnastics, for instance, when you want to learn a handstand on the beam, you learn it against the wall, and then you learn it on the floor, then you learn it on a line on the floor, then the low beam, medium beam, like high beam, right? You're like building your confidence and you're gradually like working your way up. Well, in bobsled, there's like 2 entry points, right? So when you're learning, you can come in at the middle of the track. So they open up the track, they pop you and your bobsled at like curve 6 of 20, right? And you're going down and you're thinking you're like doing it, but then you successfully make it down, but then the track is designed for speed and pressure and for G-forces, right? And so by the time you make it up to the top of the track, like you're feeling confident that you've conquered it from curve 6 down, the entire track changes when you move up, because now you're going 20 miles an hour faster. The speeds are just significantly quicker. The G-forces, the pressures, like what you're doing needs to happen significantly faster, right? And so it's basically almost as if you went from like level 1 to like level 20 from just the one jump, and there's like no in between. So it just takes lots of like repetition. Yeah. So I just remember that being the first day, like, oh my gosh, I felt great, got the confidence. I think I understand how to drive. And then getting up to the top of the track and realizing that everything is different. Not anything I learned from the bottom of the track is the same at the top of the track. And so I think that's what makes, I guess, piloting so difficult. So that's what makes, I guess, piloting as well a very not so attractive thing for athletes, because to be a successful pilot on the World Cup tour, it takes anywhere from like 4 to 6 years to even see results, let alone like be consistently on podiums and making Olympic teams. And so it's a big investment up front, and especially too, the pilot is, I kind of like to call it like the quarterback, you know, so they're kind of in charge of like your team, and they're the ones like that are making the calls, but they're also the one that are like financially responsible for the team. So at the end of the day, like as a pilot, if you want to compete on a certain race or a certain tour and you don't have funding, it's your job as a pilot to fund your entire team. So,
oh, interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
And so, and for an example too, when we pay our sled rental fees at the beginning of the year, like the brakemen don't have to worry about those fees. Like it's only for the pilots. So, and that's because at the end of the day, like we are under I guess each team is under the pilot's name. So we're working right now to try to figure out a way to give recognition to everybody that was a part of our team. Like you can't move the sleds by yourself. You can't win these races by yourself. But right now our results just say like Bob team, and it's the pilot's name, you know? And so like for me, it's Bob team Kaysha Love. And I'm like, yeah, Kaysha Love didn't do this. This was Azari Hill, Justina Matson, like Emily Rana, you know? So I think we're trying to move in a direction where in the future, we're hoping that maybe IBSF or USA Bobsledding at the Olympics, when we're on podiums and we're winning results, that it will give the whole team like Bob Team Love, and it consists of like Justina and Kaysha and all the other athletes. But at the end of the day, like we work off point systems, and so those point systems follow the pilot, and so it's just, once again, like a lot of the responsibilities kind of fall back on pilots that a lot of people don't really want to have to deal with.
I remember a conversation you and I had when we were in Paris about that exact thing. I think I asked you something along the lines of, do you get to choose who you sled with on any given competition? Give us an insight into that.
Yeah, so every team, every country works a little different. Here in the U.S., we rely on our selection committee and our coaching staff to make our combinations. So at the beginning of the season, we do that national push championships. We get the top 6 girls, the top 3 pilots. That is the pool of our national team. And then when we get on the World Cup tour, the coaching staff, they come together every weekend and they decide what they think the combination should be for that following week. So combinations nearly change every single weekend. They kind of want to get data, numbers. They want to see chemistry through different athletes. And so we as athletes can put in some input of like, hey, coach, we'd like to see this combination, or like they've been working hard, or whatever the reason may be. But at the end of the day, our coaches are the one who make those combinations, like even boiling down to like the Olympics. Like I remember Olympic season, I did like 90% of my races with Alana Myers-Taylor. And then at the Olympics, I made the Olympic team. They named the Olympic team. They named the 4 of us, but they didn't name combinations. They were just like, you guys made it. So exciting. And then 2 weeks from the Olympics, they named combinations. And I ended up getting put with Kaylee Humphreys. And I'd only raced with her one other time prior to this. And I just remember kind of thinking like, oh crap, like I hope the chemistry's there. I hope the timing's there. But at the end of the day, like you just really have to remember that like your job doesn't change. It doesn't matter who you're pushing with, doesn't matter what the energy is. Like the entire women's team, like we have we're like-minded. We have the same common goal. We all want to win. We all want to represent our country and our loved ones to the highest degree. And if you can remember that, it doesn't much matter who you push with, right? You just want to find the best combinations. And we really trust that our staff, like they are so knowledgeable and so experienced in bobsled and combinations and pushing, that you just trust them. You just trust that whatever combination they put on the ice that week is for the best, you know? So it can be really challenging because there's times where you want to like do overtime practice, like in the summer, like you want to work timing with people, but everybody lives kind of all over. Like that's the other luxury of like bobsled, is that we train like track athletes. Like we sprint, we lift, and that's kind of it. So you don't have to necessarily do that in Utah or in Lake Placid, but it's nice to do it in those 2 locations because we also have a push track, but you don't necessarily need that. So a lot of athletes, I would say probably like 75% of our team trains like all over the country. We have people in Texas and Florida and California and just all over, right? So I think it kind of makes it a little frustrating when you're like, hey, let's get together on some summer training and work timing. Let's work some chemistry. Let's work some pushing, because you just never know if that's even going to be an athlete that you're going to push with in the future. And it kind of can become a little challenging there.
Yeah. So, I want to talk about like different competitions. As you mentioned, you compete all over the world. Another challenge that you face as you
Totally.
compete is that every track is different. So talk about that aspect of bobsledding. How do you pick up on each track? How fast does that learning curve happen? And what is it from the tracks of Beijing to Park City or Lake Placid that's different, and how hard is it to pick up?
It's crazy. Let me just start with it is so crazy. As just a new pilot, so last season was technically my first pilot career, I guess that season, and I was so overwhelmed with the idea that every single track was going to be different. Like there's not a single track in the world that is relatively similar to the next, and so you have to memorize every single one of these tracks. And for me, like that really came into like the mental preparation. Like I really focused hard on like the visualizing factor. Like those visualizing techniques are really important for me to be able to like learn these tracks really fast. And usually it takes like I mentioned, like 4 to 6 years, sometimes even 8 years for people to really hone in on these tracks. Because the other thing that like most people don't know is that we only get like 3 runs a day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on the weekends, to like learn these tracks. And each run can change drastically. Like it's not like the first run you're like, okay, I gained some confidence, like I kind of got my feet underneath me, I kind of understand a little bit more. By the time the second run rolls around, there's so many different sleds, and the weather elements and just things can constantly change. And also the track preparation. So the ice crew that works all of the tracks, they're constantly spritzing the ice, they're constantly changing the formations of the entrances and the curves to kind of either make the track faster or safer or whatever it may be, right? And they're doing this in between runs. And so your first run could be like 54 seconds, right? And then let's say they come through and they spritz all the corners with water and they cup the curves so they're a little bit tighter or open radiuses. It just changes. And so your next run could be as fast as like 49 seconds. And like a half a tenth versus like seconds is so massive in this sport. And so it just really, I think for me, has been a big blessing. But for a lot of people, I think that could be a really big challenge in the sense of like, how are we able to like learn these tracks if it's constantly changing? But I think for me, I saw the most success in knowing that like every situation was different. So it constantly forced me to have to like adapt and like be on my toes and to just like learn, and just kind of be prepared for anything that like came your way. It just really forced me to have to be like resilient. And so I was really anticipating to really struggle this last season, and the simple fact that I got kind of chucked to the wolves, came off the 2023 season. I decided that I was going to partial drive, partially break, and then World Cup season was going to be my full season. I ended up winning our selection races, and my staff was like, great, you made World Cup team. You're a fully funded World Cup athlete. You're going to every World Cup race now. Like, good luck. Here we go, And so now I'm out here with the big boys. Like, this is no development. These athletes have been doing these tracks and doing this tour for like 10 plus years. Some of them, I think the most like newest athlete at the time had maybe done World Cup for like 3 years, but still like that was far more experience than I'd ever had on these tracks. And again, I just really relied on my like coaching staff to kind of walk us through like the tracks and what to do on each curve, and then visualizing. Like I really made sure that like I was going to get 10,000 reps on all these tracks. Like every weekend when we traveled to a new track, like I mentioned, we're the drivers, we're the movers. We would drive anywhere from like 5 to 8 hours after racing on a Sunday to the next country. And I would just be visualizing in my mind of just these next tracks and kind of forcing my brakeman to like quiz me. Like, okay, curve 13, it's a right or a left, and it's how many pressures and just things like that. Like my brakemen were so supportive and trying to help me like learn these tracks. But that definitely was the biggest challenge of the season. And really, I think is why I saw the success that I did, like you can't do this by yourself. And my brakemen, Azaria and Justina, like they really believed in me and they gave me confidence when I didn't have it. And so, I really like give them like all the props. Like at the end of the day, like I had every reason to crash out of every single race. I had every reason to like basically take dead last, but instead we were taking start records, track records, like podium finishes. And I think it really just goes to show you that like anything is possible when you have like the right like leadership and teamwork and support system, you know, like at the end of the day, like those girls really held it down for me.
Do you have, I mean, there's a limited number of tracks in the world, right? So I'm wondering if there's like a virtual reality or alternative reality way that you train.
I
Yeah,
wish.
okay. So that
So
answers
cool.
the
You know,
question.
I mean, video games have come so far. Like VR has done
Yeah.
incredible things. Like I just don't see like why we couldn't. But at the end of the day, like that stuff just costs money. And bobsled and like all like Olympic sports, as it really was shown to light in Paris, like we don't get government funding, you know, and that can be really challenging. And especially for bobsled, that like my sport, a bobsled season can cost me like $90,000, and we rely heavily on just like support of donations and grants and sponsors. And if you don't have those, like it's really, really hard to kind of stay in the game. And I think that's where it comes down. Like we have all these great ideas, like, oh, we could do VR to help with training, and we can get like sled movers, and we can get all these things. But like at the end of the day, like all those things kind of cost money. And right now, like all of us are just struggling to be able to try to find personal sponsors to be able to like jump on board with trying to bring home gold medals. So I think that it's totally possible, and I wouldn't be surprised if like the Germans had a VR system or something, you know. But
okay, so how did you get involved in the 2034 delegation for Salt Lake City, Utah?
Yeah, that was so fun. I think that was kind of an opportunity that I didn't really expect. Tom Kelly reached out to me, so I got a little involved with like the Utah Sports Commission. Again, just like being in high school, like getting those awards when I was in high school, and just like trying to again like get back involved with that. And I was living in Vegas for about like 8 years, and so when I finally moved back to Utah, I got an email from Tom Kelly, and he basically asked me if I wanted to come to the Sports Commission Award. And I was like, absolutely, like that sounds so much fun. And then he furthered the invitation to asking me to basically present an award at the Sport Commission Awards. And from that point forward, he kind of just said, I think I have a really cool opportunity for you. Like, I want to kind of help you share your story. And I think that like I have a cool opportunity. And I had no idea what that meant. I was like, okay, sounds good. And then, and then all of a sudden I get this email from Kat that's like, hey, we'd love for you to come to Paris, like join our delegation. I just remember being like, oh my gosh, like no way, this is crazy. And so like at that point forward, I just kind of stayed like in touch with them and trying to figure out like how we could help grow like Salt Lake and just elevate not only like Salt Lake, the Olympic movement, but like bobsled as a whole. Like I really feel like bobsled can be one of the most exciting winter sports that we have to offer. It's really hard for people to get engaged. You know, this is not something you can do recreationally. It's not something that it's constantly like on TV. And so there's
no little league for bobsled.
Yeah, you know, which we should try to find a way to make little league.
Yeah.
Something. Maybe that's a little too dangerous. I don't know. But that sounds fun. So then that basically was kind of the gist of it. And I was so excited to just like be a part of that and to be just around like the people who are so passionate about like sports in Utah and just like my community, you know. I think that's something that I've always longed for, is wanting to just be more involved in the people who also call my home home, and to just be surrounded by like those prominent families and these great athletes and like all the people that have the same visions of just wanting to bring the Olympics back to Salt Lake. I think it was so fun. It was really eye-opening to just see how engaged our community is. It was really inspiring.
So I don't know how long bobsledders last in this sport, but do you think you could have a chance to compete in 2034?
You know, I would love that. That would be awesome. You know, Kaylee and Alana though, they're amazing. They've been holding it down for the bobsled world forever now. I want to say they've both been doing bobsled for over like 10 years. Kaylee and Alana are both like in their about to be 40. I think Kaylee just turned 40 yesterday, and she has a son. And yeah, like I think it's possible. You know, anything's possible. I'll only be, what will I be? 36 at those games. Like,
Oh,
pretty young, you know?
Jeez, yeah.
You got to do what you got to do
Yeah.
when it's in your backyard, right?
Right, it's home ice for you,
Yeah.
right? So
I think my
yeah.
boyfriend will be a little upset about that idea, but he's the best. He'll be so supportive of it. Like,
You're an Olympian. He'll get over it,
right.
right?
No,
So
he'll get over it. It's fine.
awesome.
So
Awesome.
good.
Well, Kaysha, thanks so much for joining us. You know,
Absolutely.
your story is totally inspiring, and I love the fact that I love what you mentioned at the beginning when you said, I just kind of found my way into it, and you found something that you've become passionate about, and you know, that's awesome. It's so inspiring to hear that,
Thank you.
you know, we're not all like world-class athletes when we're 5 in the sport that we're competing in the Olympics, right? So yeah.
But no,
I'm
I
not
think
saying there's hope for me anymore, but there's, you know, there's hope for
you're
somebody
good.
out there.
You never know, you know, you might be like the best curler ever, you know? I just think that
I might be.
I think
Yeah.
so, you know? I think that could be something, but no, I think you're right in the sense of just like really encouraging people to just like listen to their heart, like listen to their soul, and sometimes it doesn't have to be like on plan, you know? I think that especially in gymnastics, everything had to be perfect. It had to be exactly the way it was, and I think there's just so much beauty in just like letting it be what it's going to be. Like God has this plan for you, and you may not see the big picture or the vision right now, but at the end of the day, like let it be what it's going to be, and what's meant for you will be for you, and you'll start to really understand that all those things had to happen. You had to go through those trials and those triumphs, and the gymnastics heartbreak, and the track careers, and all of those things. You had to go through those resilience to be able to like find your purpose and to be happy in the things that you're pursuing.
Yeah. I love that. So, well, thanks again so much for being on. We're cheering you on. I'm gonna definitely be following you on, you know, YouTube and Peacock or whatever during your World Cup season. So yeah, don't forget to follow Kaysha on social media at Kaysha Love.
Yes, please. I'll constantly be giving you guys updates on the bobsled season. We're actually getting ready to head into that national push championships here at the end of September. So we're gearing up for that, and then we'll jump straight into the World Cup season, and it's the pre-Olympic year. So I think this is going to be a really fun season. We get Kaylee Humphreys back. She took a year off from pregnancy, and we get Alana, who's also been like multiple Olympian silver medalist, and then you have myself who like finished 4th in the world last year. So I think it's going to be really exciting to like move forward with Team USA. We have some great things planned. So yeah, follow along on social media, YouTube, Peacocks, all the things. We're going to be doing some fun things this season.
Yeah, and follow us as well, Inside the Rings, both on Facebook and Instagram. I don't think TikTok, Twitter, X, whatever it is. Yeah, we're on all of it too. So, everybody, that's Kaysha Love. You know, thank you again so much for agreeing to come on and coming on, and it's been awesome to hear your story.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Inside the Rings. We encourage you to rate and share the podcast. And if there is any topic you would like us to cover, leave us a comment. See you next time.